is MC Fireside Chats, a weekly show featuring conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and outdoor hospitality experts who share their insights to help your business succeed. Hosted by Brian Searl, the founder and CEO of Insider Perks, and powered by insights from Modern Campground, the most innovative news source in the industry.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. My name is Brian Searl with Insider Perks. Super excited to be back for our fourth week episode focused on the RV industry and outdoor recreation. We are missing a couple people this week who are our regular guests. They are down at Elkhart for something that apparently I wasn't important enough, or Patrick or Mark or Eleanore wasn't important enough to be invited to. But, we're here anyway with you guys, talking about all kinds of different things related to the RV industry. So apologize for my blown out background. I'm getting a new video camera, so I don't know, there's scratches there. But Eleanore said my flowers are pretty, so just if you could just watch those during the show instead of this, then you'll probably have a much better experience. So appreciate everybody being here. Eleanore, is there anything that's super important that you feel like we need to talk about before we get to introducing our special guests, talking a little bit with them?
Well, I mean, I just think, from the dealer perspective right now, as you mentioned, some of our guests are away. We've got the big open house in Elkhart, Indiana, where the manufacturers are showcasing their 2024 models. So I'll be really curious to hear from the industry and our members about what the highlights are that they saw there. I know there's some new manufacturers that are coming out within the industry, so it'll be exciting to see what they bring forward, and some new innovative products as well have been showcased. So we'll probably know a little bit more on your next show in October. From our standpoint, we're gearing towards our big convention in Vegas, which is at the beginning of November. So really excited about some of the speakers that we're going to be having there, and the dealer education that's being presented on that as well. But I'll turn it over to your guests today, because it's always interesting to hear from the manufacturing and the van life, I guess.
Well, I'm going to push back on you just for a second, because I do want to actually briefly, Patrick, just briefly introduce yourself. Mark, briefly introduce yourself, and then I want to talk about this event in Elkhart while it's on our minds, and then we'll get back to you guys for a more in-depth conversation. So,
Patrick Botticelli with New Jersey Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel. It's a channel based on van life, people's own creations and ideas, and it really helps. It's entertainment, but it also helps educate people on what to expect when they get into van life, some tips and tricks. And I have weekly episodes and a pretty big following, about 345,000 subscribers. So they're all excited to see what's next with the van tours. I've been in the auto and RV business for over 30 years, and the RV portion of the business for over 20 years. So I get a good background on the RV industry, and I actually work at an RV dealership, and that's my 9 to 5. My YouTube gig is a hobby of mine.
Very cool. Glad to have you here, Patrick. Certainly looking forward to seeing what you cover and what you've been talking about for the last couple decades, right? Almost. So certainly a lot of inside support from there. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself just briefly?
Sure. My name is Mark Harling. I'm the president of Being Trailer. I'm also the president of Sterling ATM, and Sterling ATM is the mothership for Being Trailer. It is a company that features brand enhancement for major U.S. banks. So compared to you guys, I'm a relatively newcomer in the RV industry. We've been doing this since about 2017, and we got into it because we couldn't find anything that we liked in the marketplace, and we have a lot of passionate outdoors people here. And in 5 years, we've gone from page oblivion on Google to page one when it comes to off-road teardrop trailers.
Now, just to clarify, when you say that we're newcomers, obviously you're not referring to the way I look, right? Because you can clearly tell that I'm not a newcomer by observing, right? Like gray hair, all that kind of. It's crazy.
No, I mean we did. We pride ourselves on not having known anything about the RV industry before we got into it in 2017, and I think that contributed a lot to our current success.
Absolutely, I agree with that. When our dealership first got into the RV business, we had no background on it, and we took a completely different approach and quickly became one of the top selling Airstream dealers within 2 years.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. I definitely want to get back to all that. Eleanor, before we forget, well, actually, before I talk to Eleanor, we need to thank our sponsor for the show, Access Parks. I need to briefly play a clip here for them, and then we'll get back to Eleanor, and I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in Indiana and Elkhart right now.
Want to increase your revenues by up to 20%? Guests stay an average of 2 days longer when they stay connected. We are the only provider to guarantee the 25 megabits per second speeds that your guests demand at no upfront costs. And you'll be up and running in just 6 to 8 weeks. With our fiber optic network serving 30 million annual visitors, you'll experience zero risk to deliver guaranteed speeds to your guests, even during peak hours. It's Wi-Fi that just works. Guaranteed broadband is here.
Super grateful for Access Parks. They've been a long-time sponsor of us in this 4th week episode. So just if you are a campground owner, park owner, or really, I guess they would work for dealerships, right, too, Eleanor, maybe?
So, yeah.
Certainly reach out to Access Parks and learn more about their product and what they have to offer. So I do want to talk briefly about, again, we talked about Elkhart, right? So for those of us, and maybe this is just me, right? I'm more in the campground, RV park, outdoor hospitality industry than I am in the RV industry side of things. And so from a standpoint of, a lot of our audience is campground owners who have never been to this open house or don't really know what it is or how it works. Can you just dive into a little bit about, how does this work? Like when you say they're showcasing their new 2024 models, have they already finalized these? In other words, are people just going there to see them and learn what they want to stock? Are they there to get feedback? Like, does Shane, for example, walk in and be like, oh my God, that's horrible, and then they drop and don't manufacture that model? Or how does that work?
He might say that, but that's probably not the case. And I'm not sure they'd listen to Shane. But no, so what happens is that, back in the day, sort of historically, dealers would go to a show in November in Louisville, Kentucky, which was right around just after the American Thanksgiving. And that was really a buying show to stock their inventory for the upcoming year. But what we found is that was almost too late in terms of manufacturing product and just stocking product for some of the shows that were starting in January, especially in Canada. They start usually early in the new year. So the manufacturers, and obviously sort of the three big ones, Thor, Forest River, Winnebago, they started moving, actually, I think it was Forest River that started the trend to have this open house where they would showcase their product, which is the new models. So they're already built. It's not, they may have some prototypes of things that they're working on for the future, but generally it is their new line for 2024 that would have come out typically in August, September. So the dealers across North America would go to Elkhart and they're invited by their manufacturers. And they would go and see what is available, what the trends are, what new products might be, but how floor plans or how, some of the floor plans might have changed. There might be just updates in color schemes, but there's probably also updates in terms of materials that are being used or colors, and then just layouts as well. So it's a great opportunity. It's kind of the premier opportunity. There are a couple shows. I mean, there was recently the Hershey show, which is in Pennsylvania. I know Patrick mentioned he was there. They do have industry days as well. So before the consumers come in, dealers primarily on the East Coast would go to that. So they might not necessarily go to open house, but it's an opportunity for the manufacturers to showcase all of their products. And it's a huge space, right? There's a lot of land there. Some of them are near the Hall of Fame. Some of them rent fields, so there's an opportunity to see a lot of product, and then the suppliers as well. So those that supply products both to the manufacturers as well as to the dealers, they have a supplier show now that's included with that as well. That's housed inside the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame. So it's a really great opportunity for dealers to be able to pretty much talk to everybody that they purchase product from.
And did I hear right, Patrick? probably said that you went to the Hershey show.
Yeah, I attended the Hershey show as a vendor for Airstream and Colonial Airstream. So we had a display with all new 2024 Airstreams and some new product launches. So I was there for the launch of the Airstream Tradewind, a 25-foot travel trailer with 800 amp hours lithium, 600 watts of solar, 3,200 watt inverter. So it was pretty exciting. Airstream introduced some new touring coach vans, Interstate SC and Interstate 19X. And it's the first time people got to see the Airstream Basecamp 20X REI edition. So there was a lot of hype around the show for all the manufacturers because there was new models that were released that it was first chance for the public really to get their hands on it. And what the open house, historically it's been where manufacturers release their half-year new floor plans and new decors. So, it'll be 2024 and a half models that will come out for December, January, February timeframe. So, being that the industry switches over usually in May.
How do you feel the overall, what's your sense of how the Hershey show went?
I think it went extremely well. The first day, the Wednesday that was open to the public, I believe the attendance was down quite a bit by a few hundred people, but the attendance quickly picked up the second day of the show and so on. It was still a little bit down from last year. Last year's show is a little bit unique because dealers still didn't have inventory. There were still long lead times for product. And this year now, dealers have full inventory. They could take trades. I think it was a little bit more exciting for people. They weren't ordering out of a catalog per se. They were actually buying something that they could obtain and have instant gratification, pick it up in 1 or 2 weeks.
All right, tell us about your YouTube channel. Let's switch over to here. And then, Eleanore, I want to come back later. We'll talk about the RVDA convention.
So New Jersey Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel started out as just mountain biking and New Jersey outdoor stuff, history of New Jersey, abandoned places. And being that I have a background in the RV business, I'm the Airstream guy on YouTube. So if you look on YouTube at any Airstream, I'm the guy that gives all the tours for the dealership. And I always said, like, it's not as much fun when I'm opening drawers and there's nothing in it, opening up an empty refrigerator, because I'm displaying a brand new model, telling you the features and benefits and what it has. And in my YouTube channel, I would bump into people while I was out biking and doing all these activities that had RVs that had really cool setups. And I would ask them, hey, is it okay if you filmed a tour? And I would do these tours. This is almost 10 years ago of RVs. And, there's people doing RV tours on YouTube, like me for Airstream, but not many people like giving a tour of their own personal space. So those videos really took off, and that's where the channel made a right-hand turn to, and that's what the content is today. Today, majority of the channel's focus is on people building their own vans and some of their ideas that come up. I wouldn't think it is as a competition to the RV business. I just think it's a different expression of what they feel they need. And there's contrast between RV manufacturers, what they build, and what people build for themselves. I also feature a lot of local builders that are in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York that are just started out in their garage. Now they got big shops. A few of them now are RVIA certified, so they're RV manufacturers. So it's pretty exciting to see the growth just in our local market, just from people that I featured in the past. It really gives them a platform to, showcase what they've done.
Have you featured Mark on the channel?
Not yet, but I think I do another thing with Instagram for New Jersey Outdoor Adventures, and I do reel remixes where people send in a reel that they want me to talk about. So I'll do a green screen. I'll talk about what's going on in the reel. So I think I've done a bean trailer once before. I get about a dozen a day that people say, oh, I want you to talk about this. And it's always based around camping or tiny house or something related to like outdoor activities. So I think I've done one.
All right, well, let's talk about what Bean Trailer is for a second, and then we'll come back and talk more about the outdoor adventures and stuff like that. Mark, you want to introduce your company briefly?
Yeah, so we're out here in Utah and basically on the doorstep of 4 hours in almost any direction. You have incredible outdoor activity. You have Moab, you have Southern Utah, you have the Tetons, you have
Zion,
Yellowstone,
Canyon.
the list goes on. And those are the ones that people have heard of. More importantly, there's a million other ones. Every time somebody comes and picks up a bean trailer, whether they're from Nevada or Idaho or Arizona or Colorado, they tell me about places that I've never heard of, and they sound amazing. So, we're very close to basically a lifetime of outdoor activities. And, Cindy and I, my wife, are mountain bikers, and we were looking for a small trailer. Didn't really find anything that really met our requirements. And so we, because I've got 30 years of design and manufacturing experience, came back and designed our own trailer, and it quickly became a big hit. And it's basically a trailer that's all one piece fiberglass shell. And I know the emphasis of the RV industry and a lot of the things that you are promoting are actually camping in campgrounds, and we've occasionally done that, but more likely than not, we're off grid. So we try to, the whole tagline is Bean Trailer can go where others can't, and that, so that's a little bit of a different build for a trailer, because you have to deal with a lot of off-road vibration, and so you have big ground clearance, you have custom suspensions, and you have basically construction that doesn't fall apart from low frequency and high frequency vibration, which is what you get when you're overlanding or off-road.
But we're looking at your website right now, so I'll just go on down through to look at some of the models and stuff. Is there any one in particular you want to dive into and just show off real quick, or?
Our most popular model is the Black Bean, and that is by far our biggest seller, and ironically our most expensive trailer. So that's got the base model has a Timbren independent suspension, but the most popular is what we call the Cloud suspension, which is actually an air suspension that has custom trailing arms, has a Fox reservoir shock, and the air suspension allows it to lower so that when you're on site, you have a good height for the galley. But when you start off-roading, it will actually rise 4 inches from its lowest position. So, yeah, basically our trailers are a great galley and a great sleeping area and storage.
So tell me a little bit about this backstory, right? Like why your origin, like you talked about, you got into this, I think 2017, you said, right? Relatively new to the industry, trying to, I assume, solve a problem, right? So what problem did you see then that you have solved or are working towards solving that you didn't see the rest of the industry kind of tackling in your mind?
Yeah, the first thing I did was I bought a Sprinter van. I got excited about those. I decided that I knew I could design one and build it, and I thought they were super cool looking. And so I, like many people, put their name on a list and waited and got my Sprinter van. By the time I drove from the Mercedes dealership to my plant, I knew that this wasn't going to be a good match for me. I could tell that the van, creative people, we were just at a van show in Reno, and those vans are incredible. And if you're a do-yourselfer, like Patrick was saying, that it gives you an opportunity to really put incredible creative touches on that. But, in my mind, a van was basically from the ground up by design meant for utility and cargo. It was designed for workmen and people who are delivering packages. And so you can make them pretty cool, but there are some compromises that are baked into the inherent design. And so then I saw a small trailer. I saw a little tab trailer made, I think in Elkhart, Indiana. And I saw that and I fell in love with that. And I did a bunch of research on the internet and saw that it was built by the Amish. And I thought, man, if it's built by the Amish, then it's probably got a high level of refinement. And so I went to a dealership here locally and saw one. And the thing that immediately struck me was that the ergonomics were not right for me. I've been in creating environments with my human factors background for 25, 30 years, and the space seemed a little cramped to me. And I could tell by the way that it was built mostly to be used on road with a little bit of gravel road. And so I knew it wouldn't survive the places I wanted to take it. So I wanted something with more room, and I wanted something that could go where you couldn't take a van or you couldn't take other trailers. And that's when we started designing Bean Trailer.
Okay, makes sense to me. Anything else you want to add, like to talk about, like some of the where you headed in the future? Like, where do you want to take Bean Trailer? Like, obviously you've got these great products; they've been fairly successful already. Is there something that you're looking to develop that maybe you can share with us? If it's a secret, you can just say no, I can't talk about it. But where you want to go, maybe in the next 5-6 years? Is there something that you got your eye on that you'd like to produce or solve?
Yeah, ironically, it's our most luxurious trailers are the ones that are doing the best. And so we're going to go up from there. And
which is fascinating to me, right? Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's fascinating to me because we're kind of talking about, and Patrick, feel free to weigh in on this too. We're kind of talking about the merger of two worlds here, right? Like luxury, but also off-road, van life, but smaller, but still like I think there's a perception from people who are outside of the van life industry or the small trailer industry that luxury can't work in such a small package. Is that fair as a perception that's happening, even though that's not probably accurate?
I think, are you a factory direct or you have dealerships?
We do not have any dealerships. We sell directly to our clients who come out and pick up their trailers. I
think it's smart doing the higher end because a person that knows exactly what they want, they're willing to spend the money. You don't want to be in the price competition, a feature competition of 15 other RV manufacturers that build a teardrop style trailer. You either want to pivot if you don't have dealership network, you either want to pivot to the ultra high end for that specialty buyer or really, really low end entry level price point. And I've seen smaller businesses become successful in both avenues. The middle's tough to compete.
And the middle, it's funny that you say that because in the last year, it is that middle that has been the most impacted, right? You would think that the high end would be the most impact, but it's not. It's that middle. We notice that people in that middle category are much more careful. In 2021, and like people would barely ask the price of anything. It was
whatever
like,
they could get their hands on.
Yeah, it's just like I just want to buy it. Well, don't you? Well, yeah, I do care a little bit about the price, but now, people research harder and they're holding their checkbook much closer to their chest, and so that middle area has been a challenge. That's where we've seen the biggest decrease in sales. So, Patrick, to your point, the area that we're trying to do is, we're sort of abandoning that middle for right now. We're trying to create a more value-oriented trailer that doesn't compromise on construction, that you can still take, where you can't take other trailers, but something that appeals to those who are much more price sensitive, and that that is a big part of the market right now, at least from our small perspective as a custom trailer manufacturer.
Do you feel that's the same, Eleanore, as the dealers? That the middle is being squeezed out a little bit, or?
Yeah, we've seen that this year. I mean, Mark was saying, 2021, everybody knows it was crazy. There wasn't enough product out there for the consumer demand. 22 was a bit softer, and this past year, we're still seeing high end. High end is still selling at the dealership level. It's kind of the family models. When you've got families that have a limited discretionary income, with interest rates obviously that have gone up, and the price point for just affordability of living. So we're seeing some of the affordable models that are a little bit on the lower end are going, and then the higher end as well. So it's very similar.
And the reason I ask that is because I feel like that, and sorry, I'll just talk in 1 second, Patrick. I feel like that's the same thing we're seeing on like the camping side of the business too, is that there's a shift towards, I'm going to stay on BLM land, or I'm going to take it off-road in van life, or I'm going to stay at a state park or a provincial park, or I'm going to go all the way to the high end, to the glamping, to the luxury experiences, to whatever. Like certainly there are tons of people still camping in the middle, but I feel like there's, from the outside looking in, not owning a campground and just talking to everybody, I feel like we're seeing that same pivot. But go ahead, Patrick.
So it's smart having entry level, medium, and high, because you'll have loyal customers that will only buy your product. So you got to get them in the door. So you got to have an attractive price of an entry level unit. And whether they decide to upsell themselves straight away or they buy that entry level model, if they're a loyal customer of yours, they'll be back for the higher end model. So you got to actually, check off all those boxes to scale the business. But I see it with the craft van builders right now. They're only doing and excelling right now in the really high end stuff. There's still a market for the really, really low priced value stuff, just to get people to call, get people in the door. But with all the RV manufacturers now that have inventory, the dealers have inventory, there's rebates, there's high discounts available. It's really hard for some of the smaller manufacturers that started off in 2020, 2021, 2022 to continue scaling, because now they have more competition. They had no competition because the RV manufacturers and dealers didn't have any inventory. Bean Trailer's been around before all this, so they actually got their foundation built prior to everything that exploded. And they learn a lot from their customers. I'm sure when they do their rallies and get-togethers, they get a lot of feedback, and that's how other RV manufacturers build and develop their products and improve their products based on what their customers say. And those loyal customers, I have had Airstreams that I've sold families 8, 9, 10 Airstreams over the years, because they keep coming back. And not only because they love the brand, but they love the dealership, they love me. And loyalty is very important, keeping those customers happy.
Do you feel like there is, and we, again, paralleling the campground industry, right? Do you feel like as people do start to be more guarded with their pocketbooks and careful about what they're purchasing, and again, steering more toward luxury versus just buying whatever is available on the lot like they were the last few years, is there a need for manufacturers to kind of have their thing, or their, like Airstream obviously has their thing, right? Or Bean Trailers has their thing. Is there a need for them to identify, in order to compete, like you were just talking about, is there a need for them to identify something that really sets them and their brand apart?
I think it's going to be important that they have something, no matter what it is, that sets them apart. But in order to stay competitive, they're going to have something else that every other RV manufacturer has at their dealer showrooms. Otherwise, they're going to miss that little market right there.
What are your yeah, Mark?
I think I'm trying to remember a saying, but a bull market is sometimes mistaken for brains. And so I think when, a bunch of people got in based on what's clearly proving to look like a spike, which is, I think for the RV industry, it's a year different. The spike for us was in 21 and all the way through the summer of 22. And then it slowed down. I think it slowed down for the RV industry before that. but I think a lot of people got in on an artificial rise associated with in the market associated with COVID. So to answer your question, if they're going to survive, they're going to have to differentiate because there's a compression. I don't know if people are talking about it or not, but there is definitely a compression in the market. And you know, if you're going to survive a compression, you have to be able to differentiate.
For sure, and that's happening everywhere, right? That's happening in campgrounds too, where you need to like in 2021 and 2022, everybody was just going camping. Everyone was outside. You didn't have to do virtually any marketing. You just had to say, "Hey, I'm a campground," and raise your hand, and then there's like 300 people there the next day, right? That's maybe an over exaggeration of it, but you understand, I think, what I'm saying. And so I think that's the same kind of thing we're seeing here, is that need to differentiate yourself, set yourself apart, even if it's just doing a little bit of marketing. I'm curious, Eleanore, how does this, when you're a dealer and we're talking about, back at this open house, right? How do you adjust for what we may or may not be heading into as far as the inventory you're carrying on your lot? And I know every dealer is different, but.
Well, for sure. I think, there's some really good tools out there for dealers to use. I mean, we have reports from Statistical Surveys, Inc. On new unit sales. And so while they report, what's been sold in them, you can really drill down to what's selling in your market area. So I think for dealers to be able to do a bit of analysis of what's out there, what's selling in their area, they are able to determine, do I have the right brand mix? Should there be somewhere, maybe I'm heavy on this type of product and I'm seeing that the need is for another type of product. So that's a great tool. Another tool that both in the US and Canada, we have some, surveys that are done on the consumer demographics from GORVing and GORVing Canada. And really there's some new reports that analyze who the new RV consumers are going to be. So I would recommend that dealers have a look at some of the marketing materials and some of the research study that is available to them, because then they can, again, take the mix that's selling in their area and their county and their state or province, and then, determine, where is my consumer going to be, and then figure out what product type is going to be best suited for them to load up on.
Go ahead, please finish. Sorry, before I.
Well, I was going to say, and then in terms of, the manufacturers, I mean, the big ones obviously have a mix of everything, yeah, and cover all the bases. But for a smaller manufacturer, we are really seeing, them really focusing on one particular type. We've got leisure travel vans in Canada, obviously, Triple ERV, who focuses, primarily on Class B. They used to do Class A's and travel trailers as well, but they've really found their marketplace and focused on that, and then done a really good job in that.
Are there any, and this is just, maybe this is an ignorant question, right, coming from outside the RV industry again, are there ways for a dealer to pivot if the market were to change after they have all their inventory, or are they kind of just locked into the best educated guess they can make at the time they purchase?
Well, I mean, I know, Patrick, you're actually at a dealership, so maybe that's something you can answer a little bit better than I can.
I mean, if you want to switch, go for it.
Yeah. We, our dealership, we only sell two brands, Winnebago and Airstream. And the Winnebago, we only sell the motorhomes. And we focus just on those two brands, two solid companies that have been around forever. My gut feeling is that some dealers that have multiple brands that maybe picked up new brands during the 2020, 2021, just to get more inventory, might be reanalyzing some of the brands that they're carrying and start shedding brands. So I was in the RV industry in 2008, 9, 10, when a lot of RV manufacturers actually went out of business, went bankrupt. And I know what happened to a lot of dealers that had excessive inventory of that specific manufacturer. Banks would not offer loans on a orphan RV manufacturer. You couldn't get extended service contracts. It was a mess. It was a real big mess. I hope that doesn't happen again, but I think dealers are really pulling back right now, really analyzing what do we carry, what do we sell, who are our customers right now, what's the sweet spot, and then making sure that the manufacturers that they carry are stable, that they're going to be there to support their customers for warranty claims down the road, and keep those loyal customers coming back to that dealership.
Does it hurt from, and again, maybe this is an Eleanore question too, or even a Mark, you can weigh in on this just because you only carry the two brands at your dealership, but is there harm that does to innovation in the industry by cutting back on and just saying I'm only going to rely on the Airstreams or the Winnebagos or the Thors or the right? Is there?
I think I've seen more happen in the last year with innovation because the supply chain opened up. Manufacturers now have to figure out how to sell more products, right? So you got to come out with new stuff. I think the marketplace was a little stale for the last 3 years because they were just trying to keep up with demand. They weren't coming out with that much new stuff. What could we build? What could we get? Manufacturers did pivots. If they couldn't get 3500 series Sprinter chassis, they'd build a different thing on a 2500 or a 1500 chassis just because that's what was available. Let's design a motorhome around this chassis and payload. So I think it was kind of just to get product out in the market. But right now, manufacturers are really trying to, and they all are trying to innovate now that they have to sell dealers more product. What could we come out with that's new that's going to get the dealer excited and the customers excited again?
Do we have a sense of anything that is being shown or being done that we can look forward to in 2024 that they're innovating on? I mean, I know we're seeing that at the open house now, so maybe more, again, like Eleanore said, maybe next show, but.
Our Airstream participates in that, and so does Winnebago. I believe I didn't get to pop on to RV Business today or yesterday, but I think Winnebago was announcing some new products. Airstream is bringing the stuff that they had brought to the Hershey RV show for that part of the country to see what's new. But I'm sure some of the other manufacturers. I think Winnebago announced new entry-level travel trailer. Ember RV just announced a new entry-level travel trailer. They went for that higher-end market, then they kind of sat in the middle. Now they're trying to capture that lower price point, and it's really based on what maybe their dealers are telling them. Say, hey, we need something that can compete with, Jayco, right? I think that was originally one of their companies, but anyway, so now they have a full gamut. They were only one product when they first came out, and they could barely make them because they didn't have enough parts to build these things. I think they had like 100 trailers out in a yard with tape over the windows because they couldn't even get windows and they couldn't ship them to dealers. So, but now they have a full product line. So I see that manufacturer scaling pretty well and actually weathering the storm pretty good.
Share those sentiments, Eleanore and Mark?
Yeah, I would say. And I think, consumer demand, dealers hear about it and they pass it on to the manufacturer. I mean, some of the things that there is innovation because they're having to deal more with sustainability and electrification, and whether it be in the campground or just with, the different power sources that are being available and the government regulations that are driving some of those changes. So I think you're going to see quite a bit of innovation that's going to continue through the next few years.
I'm curious, like if a bean trailer, just picking on you because you're here, Mark, right? But if any of these smaller manufacturers, are there ways for them to get easily into a dealer network or be sold at dealerships, or is it really kind of a steep uphill climb?
For a
for
dealer
any
network is not
company,
necessarily. It does improve the placement of your trailer because, all of a sudden you're not having to fly to Salt Lake City, which, probably 2/3 of the country considers flyover territory. So that is a challenge, and obviously getting trailers, but there's so many significant differences between a custom off-road trailer and what you would find in an RV lot that
for sure
it makes it difficult. I haven't seen that model used successfully. I
can weigh in on that too.
Yeah, please go ahead, Patrick. And I guess just for clarity, I was going to say, I'm not talking about the custom trailers, but just the smaller manufacturers in general who are trying to get a foot in the door.
I think it's the smartest thing he did just to stay as a factory direct. Phoenix Cruiser out in Pennsylvania has done it forever. Coach House, there are a lot of manufacturers out there that are factory direct that you don't have to sell at wholesale, pay dealer to do warranty claims. Every state has different laws on how an RV manufacturer, what happens if the dealer goes out of business and buying back inventory. It's very, very complex, and he would be taking and selling these at a lower profit margin to satisfy these dealers, or the price would have to go up substantially because now you have MSRP invoice, and then you would have obviously his cost to build it. I think he's doing better this way. And also, too, it's a destination. Casita, if you want to buy a Casita trailer, you drive out to Texas and you buy a Casita trailer, you have it delivered to your house. He has the same business model, and he could really do some more custom stuff if a customer wants, where if it's sitting on a dealer lot, if that dealer can't sell that stuff, he has to buy all that stuff back. It goes back to the factory. So in different states, there are different laws for that.
Well, let me give you an example, okay?
Please,
so the average beam trailer, which is about a 14-foot teardrop trailer, all one-piece fiberglass construction, starts at 26, goes all the way to 70, and the average price is 42. So now a beam trailer's on an RV lot, and the salesman who knows nothing about the beam trailer relative to the other trailers on that lot, somebody asks him, how much is the price of that trailer? It's 42. How much is the price of that fifth wheeler? Oh, it's 42. Well, what's the difference? Well, that one's bigger. So they're just not in a position to differentiate, the value proposition, the fact that, if you took that same fifth wheeler on the places we took a beam trailer, you would come back with a pallet of splinters. And so it doesn't work for our model.
Yeah, you'd have to do a lot of education at the dealers, get the salespeople excited for it, have a spiff program. I think what you're doing is extremely smart, and it's working well for you. Do you have a yard full of inventory? I noticed like a 14-day lead time to get one.
So we have inventory trailers, and we have custom order. Most of our trailers are custom order that get delivered anywhere from 90 to 120 days after the order date. But we do have a handful of inventory trailers. But that is, it's a mirror, Patrick, a year and a half ago, we wouldn't have had a single inventory trailer. It wouldn't have been here.
Yeah.
It'd have been gone.
Financing and trade-ins, or is it up to the customer?
Nope.
And then my question would be on the service side. So, that's the one thing, is that we know that when you purchase a unit, at some point there's going to be servicing. So when you're factory direct, how do you ensure that there's quality servicing available to your consumer?
We do it all on our own. So we try to ship a trailer that's not going to have any service issues. We do, our warranty claims are less than 3% of our of the trailers that we have. And in general, I know this is going to sound crazy to you, if we don't trust that there's a shop that's going to be able to mitigate the issue, we'll fly somebody out. We do it all the time. We repair it at your house. And that is the greatest motivation to not send anything out that needs to be repaired.
Does this in some ways, and I just want to give you a chance to weigh in from a dealer's perspective to Eleanore, and obviously Patrick, you can too, but does this in some way complement and work better for dealers too, given that they can specialize in certain areas and models that maybe have a broader appeal than a niche market? Does it make sense for all this to work this way on both sides?
Well, obviously I'm a dealers association, so
right, I know. That's why I'm giving you they basically been talking about some negatives, but I don't think they're actually negatives.
Well, and I think there is product that might be similar that is sold through a dealer network. For me, the big thing is the servicing part. Now, if it's true, and it doesn't need servicing, then great. But we do have laws in Canada about, selling product and standards. And so I just want to ensure consumer safety, right? And as long as the consumer safety aspect is met, then, it seems like Mark has a business model that's working for him.
Are you RVIA certified yet, Mark, for your product?
Oh, heavens no. I will never be. That is the lowest. I can't imagine.
We're treading into some dangerous waters here. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. So maybe the politically correct thing to say is that
we're not politically correct here. Feel the
yeah,
we have people who will rebut you.
That is of no interest to us because that is such a low standard. So we are.
Well, okay, now hold on, because I don't know anything about the RVIA standard, right? But I want you to explain why you believe it's a low standard instead of just saying it.
Because in general, RV quality is an oxymoron. The reason we started Bean was because of I couldn't think of any other industry that can get away with such schlocky, poor craftsmanship. And if you built anything else in the world to what most RVs are built, you would immediately get sued. If you hired a contractor in New Jersey and said, hey, and the guy said, good news, man, I built your house to RV standards, Patrick, you'd immediately hire a lawyer to litigate. So yeah, I think we owe a lot of our success to not taking the lead in how RVs do it. So we do have the certifier. It's PNW out of the Northwest, but the REVA standard is something we'd never be. We would not be proud of that. I don't know how else to put it.
I want to make sure that we're giving a chance to balance this from a dealer side, right? So Patrick or Eleanor, because I don't know anything about it.
There's a standard, just like when you're building a house, it's building code.
I'm familiar generally with the standard, right? But
yeah, it doesn't mean that the manufacturer has to do the bare minimum. Some do, but it has to have a fire extinguisher certain size within a certain proximity. The appliances inside have to be UL listed. There's a whole long list of things that they have to do, and it just gives the customer peace of mind that at least it was built to the bare minimum of the standards of the industry, hopefully better.
But keeping at least, right? Again, keeping at least. It doesn't every RV is like that.
Your sell would be on it like, we build way up and above the RVIA standard. Here's their guideline. We got the seal on the trailer. That means you could trade it in down the road. It's an NADA JD Power listed. You could get RV insurance on it. Lemon law, whatever comes with that. But it's definitely something, even though you don't agree with the way the RVs are made and your product is believed to be better, it's something to think about down the road to protect your customers when they go to purchase, gives them a little bit more peace of mind. And if they have a total loss, they have a value based on JD Power because it's RVIA manufacturer, and they won't have any problems traded into a dealer if they wanted to get out of it.
Well,
and a bank loan.
This is what I wanted to get to, right? Because obviously, it's okay for us to have and hear both perspectives of each side of the story, but very clearly, there's a lot of respect for the bare minimum RVIA standard, whatever that may be, because it's setting that ground floor, and it's very important to do that, I think.
And every year they up the ante too, which is good. It keeps manufacturers on their feet.
I mean the standards are there. It's actually the NFPA 1192, which is the National Fire Protection association that puts it together, and it is a safety standard. And in Canada, we have the CSA Z240, which is the Canadian Standard Association. And ultimately, I mean, they are safety standards. Now, I know in Canada, we have provinces that mandate that. So if it is an RV, it has to be certified to that by an accredited third-party inspection agency. So it's very stringent. So it's, again, you can build above and beyond, but, you're utilizing the minimum of the safety requirements as deemed, safe by the inspection agencies.
Well, and I think, to be fair, like, again, like, it's okay to criticize, it's okay to, right? I mean, again, I think we're a base standard here, but I think it's more important to say that, from RVIA standpoint, and again, I'm limited in the RV industry side of things, but when you look at the campground side of things, and I mean, even talk about, like, we had a show, I think, a year ago about RVIC, National RVIC, a year and a half ago, trying to come out with standards for campgrounds. I think it almost has to be a base set of standards, doesn't it? Because if you get too high, you're going to alienate a bunch of people who don't want to participate in your standard anymore. So I think that's really
let me clarify.
Yeah, please.
I'm not saying that it's not a good idea to have a third-party certification for all the reasons that you guys have enumerated, for sure. I just don't believe that's
it's not the right direction for you.
It's not the right direction for us. Yeah.
Which is perfectly fine. Yeah. We just want to make sure that we're balancing with, like, it's not just a you thing, but it is what works for you.
Yeah. And there's the thing that people don't talk about is there's a lot of political, there's a lot of politics and toll bridge fees that are bundled into your RVIA membership. That it's not. I mean, it isn't there. Yeah.
Sometimes those fees are really worth it for the RVDA. They go to bat for you with Congress when different laws are about to change that would affect the RV industry, especially when it comes to RV financing, RV insurance. They go to bat for you. But yeah, it is expensive. It's a cost of being a dealer or a manufacturer. But you got to understand that eventually someone's going to be there on your side if for some reason Congress decides to make something illegal or take something away that they had before. I think there was just an RV business recently that RVDA was going to bat with something with Congress in regards to campground usage or something in that effect, maybe with Harvest Host.
I don't remember. Eleanor, do you remember anything about that?
No, you'd have to ask Phil to see what, but yeah, I mean, RVDA of Canada, like ourselves, I mean, that's a lot of one of our strategic goals as associations is advocacy.
Lobby.
And, it's and so, that's what the association brings. And, RVIA in the US, yes, I mean, they're a very strong voice at the table when it comes to, you look at the Great American Outdoors Act that was passed in the States, and that was spearheaded by the associations. And obviously the associations need funding. And so, that comes from the manufacturers as a member of the association. Yeah. So it all kind of ties it together.
Well, and that's what I wanted to do, is just make sure that we told, like, because obviously there's strong opinions on both sides in some cases, depending on who you're talking to. And I don't think it's kind of like the Harvest Hosts versus the private campground owners. If they don't get together and talk, they don't realize that they're both kind of benefiting each other, and maybe they're not a good fit. Like, not everybody's a good fit in this bucket or this bucket, but there's a common ground in the middle that everybody's kind of working towards, and that's getting more people outside and camping and in safe rigs. And whether that's your standards or RVIA standards or whatever, there's good things being done from all sides, I feel like. And so I just want to make sure we kind of balance that, right? It's very easy to not, and to just take one side.
There's a lot of times at the dealership level, people, I'll put like camper vans. They had someone build them a van, and it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, but there's no way to trade it in because it's not an RV. It's not recognized as an RV. There's no book value. So it's just a converted van at this point. And then that person that owns that is kind of stuck. They have to sell it on their own. And then when they go to sell it, the person there that wants to buy it, they go to their bank to try to get a loan on it, and It's not an RV. They're going to have the same problem when they go to get insurance. So that's why a lot of these RV van builders are becoming RVA certified, because they want to scale their business, and they heard all these pain points from their previous customers that had bought one of their products. So they're just trying to do the right thing in that respect. And there's a lot of stuff that they did learn that the RVIA, it's a big book that comes with it. And they actually come out and inspect your shop 8 times during the year to make sure that you're building to their standards. And it's a good learning experience, even if they decided not to become RVA, just to know what's expected.
Makes sense. Okay. All right. We got 5 minutes left. That was our big unintended controversial dive into the show for maybe the rest of the year, hopefully. But we'll find out. So what else do we have that we want to, any closing thoughts, guys? We killed an hour pretty fast there. It felt like.
Yeah. So I'm into van life. I don't live in a van. I live in a house, but I have a really cool Airstream camper van. And, everybody's controversy is like, when did van life start, right? When was the day it started? I could tell you people have been camping in vans since the 60s and 70s, but it was a different approach.
We need a date, Patrick. I need an exact date. I'm going to hold you to it right now.
It is January 2002. That's when Mercedes-Benz brought the Sprinter into the United States. It was the first van that you could buy off a dealer's lot that you could stand up in. Okay. Before that, if you wanted a van, you had to buy a van and have someone put a high top or pop top on it. That was a game changer. When we were in the RV business, it was like our first year. When the Sprinter came out, the phone would not stop ringing off the hook. Airstream didn't even make Class B vans during that period of time. They were just getting back into it. They stopped in 2000. Winnebago didn't make camper vans. They stopped after they built the Rialta in that same time period. And everybody said, when is Airstream? When is Winnebago going to build something in the Sprinter? And then we'd have a group of people that would come in just to, when the Airstream Interstate first came out in 2004 model year, to see it so they could take measurements, because they wanted to build their own. And we're like, are you nuts? Why would you want to build your own van? We have these vans here. Well, no, I want it my way. Then we actually seen people that would full-time live in these vans, because you could stand in it. You could have a full bed. You could have a shower, bathroom, toilet, whatever you needed inside of it. So that was like when it first really, it clicked in people's head. People had an aha moment. I could just buy a van and convert it, and not have to crawl around and duck around while I'm inside of it. And then as internet became more and more available anywhere, people said, wow, I could actually take this van and still have some sort of a work life or connection with my friends and family while I'm out on the road. And then internet got better, and jobs started offering remote. This is before COVID. You could work remote. So people said, why can't we just build a van or buy an RV and travel the country and still check in and go to a campground and earn a paycheck? And then COVID happened, and people said, well, now I definitely don't have to go to work. I have to work remote. Starlink is now available. So now you could be out in the middle of nowhere, boondocking, overlanding, and still get a signal and still earn a paycheck. So it really scaled. When I first started selling Airstream vans, the statistical surveys at that point, I think between Road Track, Pleasureway, Airstream, Leisure Travel was building vans back then, Great West Van. There was only, I would say, less than 10 manufacturers of building camper vans. Altogether, the shipment totals were 600 vans. Yeah. And then the next year was 800, and then 1,100, and 1,200, and a decline in 2008, 9, 10. And then Winnebago got into the Class B market and started with the Era and really scaled it from there. And now there's probably 50 to 60 major RV manufacturers that are built. Maybe there's more. There's probably more that are building these camper vans, and it really scaled. Now you see the shipments on statistical surveys. It's in the tens of thousands of Class B vans that are being sold and shipped each year. It's unbelievable. And they're mobile. It's freedom. I know you're in the campground world. There's so many people that buy vans, buy them so they don't have to go to a campground. So they have the freedom. They can be able to go and park wherever they can. I still go to campgrounds when I use my Airstream camper van, but I don't have to if I didn't want to. It does give me that freedom. Whereas if I had my Airstream travel trailer, I really am reliant on going to a campground to plug in and let it set up for the day. That would be my base camp. And I could go out in my truck and do my adventures and have a place to go back to. So
what we really need is like some kind of a hybrid Tesla summon feature, right? So you can go hike in the boondock wilderness, do all your nature things, and then just send the trailer to the campground to power up its EV and then drive back and pick you up when you're done, right?
Yeah, Airstream came out of the prototype. We get calls on it all the time. It's nowhere near even being complete. It's called the E-Stream. It's a trailer that actually self-drives. It has to be towed by something, but it actually propels itself. So it doesn't lower the fuel economy on the electric vehicle that's pulling it. And it's 100% runs off-grid, off lithium. It is unbelievable. And they had it at the Tampa RV show January 2022. And they were just driving this thing around, remote control. And it was pretty fascinating. So I can see that's the direction that the RV industry may eventually go. They're a long way away from developing this product because now you have something that actually drives. So there's National Transportation Highway Association. There's lots of laws and things that they have to get approved in order for this to work. But the idea is out there.
All right, we'll have to dive into that on a future show sometime because I'm a big geek and I'd love to talk about all that kind of stuff. But I really appreciate you guys being here. Eleanore, any final thoughts before we wrap up? We're a couple minutes over.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure. And it was nice meeting you, Patrick. And maybe we'll see you at the RVDA convention sometime.
Patrick, where can they find you on YouTube?
So it's New Jersey Outdoor Adventures on YouTube.
You do go outside of New Jersey?
What's that?
You do go outside of New Jersey occasionally?
I do. But my home base is New Jersey. I love New Jersey. You could do everything in New Jersey. You could drive an hour in any direction, and you're either in Philadelphia, Atlantic City, New York City, Catskills you could get to pretty quickly, Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. So you could be in the city, in the country, on the shore. And I love the Jersey Shore. The beach is unbelievable.
Awesome. Eleanore Hamm from RVDA of Canada. Appreciate you being here as always. And Mark as well. Mark's here. He just popped back in. So hi, Mark. We got to go. But thank you so much for joining us. And it's beantrailer.com. I'm just going to speak for Mark.
Beautiful product. I love what you guys are doing out there. I admire it.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Thanks again to our sponsor, Excess Parks. We will see you next week. We'll be live from the glamping show in Denver, Colorado. Take care, guys. Appreciate you. See ya.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of MC Fireside Chats with your host, Brian Searl. Have a suggestion for a show idea? Want your campground or company in a future episode? Email us at hello@moderncampground.com. Get your daily dose of news from moderncampground.com. And be sure to join us next week for more insights into the fascinating world of outdoor hospitality.